Hi guys, on your screen is Hurricane Olivia. Already talked about Olivia. It means peace when you break it down, basically to the olive tree, to the olive branch, to the symbolization of peace. Um, this hurricane is this is a projection to the 11th of September. What I want you guys to do is just have a look at what this hurricane is going to do. On the 11th of September, I'm moving into the 12th of September. You see that? It just made a sharp kind of left turn and passes directly in front of the big island, particularly across the east rift zone where the Kilauea volcano is. We have the Helena slump, fish number 8, and all the fishes that run down into the ocean. Um, we've seen a lot of hurricanes moving towards Hawaii. The majority of them, apart from Hector, have moved to the north of the island chain. But Olivia looks to be moving through the Hawaiian chain. Now, the earlier models had it moving directly in line like that, but as you see, these later models now have it currently tracking to the north. But the weirdest movement I've ever seen a hurricane do, instead of like looping even and coming down, it just suddenly cuts this way, almost like it's reversed itself. And obviously, I know you guys are going to be thinking direct energy weapons and stuff like that are being used to direct these hurricanes, and I really can't disagree with that, although I can't prove it. So just one more time to show you how this Hurricane Olivia just seems to suddenly take a sharp turn towards Hawaii, moving into the 12th of September. Now obviously this is a GMT time or UK time, so 10 a.m. right at this point on the 12th of September would still be the 11th of September at about, I think Hawaii's 10 hours behind, so it would be about 11 p.m. there, which makes it 2 p.m. on the west coast, 2 a.m. on the west coast on the 12th, 5 a.m. on the west coast, the east coast on the 12th, and 10 a.m. UK time on the 12th. Sorry, that was a bit confusing. So just to zoom out, because obviously that's Hurricane Olivia, that's the 12th, and then we know that the very next day or around the same kind of time, we have to worry about Hurricane Florence on the other side. Now at this point, Hurricane Florence is still some distance from the east coast, but come the 13th, it's right up on the east coast. Now the models are projecting it to head towards South Carolina, North Carolina, and I did put out the warning for basically that kind of region, North Carolina, South Carolina, moving up to New York. Pretty much the whole entire east coast should be on alert. But I think that it's still going to make a more direct impact with New York. I think this model is going to change again back to what it had before, with it directly being on top of New York. Of course, it could be a layered representation, meaning a hurricane going on at the same time as something happens in New York. So the hurricane may not necessarily be over New York, but I still think it's destined to go that way. Either way, the East Coast from North Carolina, South Carolina to New York should be especially careful, but the entire East Coast should be very watchful when it comes to this hurricane. So two of them to watch around the same kind of time frame. For the 12th, Hawaii with Hurricane Olivia, and for the 13th, Hurricane Florence for the East Coast, North Carolina, South Carolina, and possibly New York. The news media is starting to pick up on these hurricanes now, so if you're watching the news at all and you're getting weather segments, then you'll notice that they're talking about all these hurricanes that appear to be starting to swirl. I think it was last week or just about more than a week ago, I put up a video called 6 Hurricanes. I can't remember the full title, but it had 6 hurricanes in it. And that is coming into the time frame that we're currently in. You've got 3 over here, maybe possibly a 4th, but that probably won't develop into a hurricane at all. And then you've got 1, 2, and there's probably another one over here somewhere. Oh, there it is, the massive super typhoon, of course, over there. that's yeah, that's going to be pretty dangerous. That one will be heading towards Guam, um, an island I've mentioned quite a few times because it's significant for the military, as well as Hawaii being significant for the military and the tsunami warning center. So you've got a lot of American assets seeming to be under hurricane attack at the moment. And then after this one has moved through Guam, it will be moving through to Taiwan, which obviously, that might be beneficial for China, considering Taiwan is a rogue country that they view as part of China under the One China policy, but has been kind of stepping outside of its bounds, meeting Donald Trump, and Donald Trump calling the president of Taiwan when he became president. So it may be that Taiwan is due to have something happen there as well. Lot to consider, but I think we've been able to jump ahead quite a bit on this one in terms of the hurricanes using the different weather maps. We've been able to see this one coming for over a week now, so it's not going to be a surprise. But of course, there are loads of people that don't pay attention to these kind of things that will be kind of surprised by what comes. Hopefully, with some of the media coverage now talking about it, people will be paying a bit more attention. But still, with all the fake news talk that's out there, people don't really kind of listen to the news, which is, it's a double-edged sword, because you may miss out on actually key information. When I watch the news, I don't listen to their little discussions between each other, but the information that they're giving is actually real information. It's not fake. I think the fake part is where they're discussing it between themselves and giving their opinions, and that's fine. If you want to have a talk show, that's okay, but I just pay attention to the news part of it, because that's what it's called, the news, not the news talk show. So with all that said, I may add some of the weather reports onto the end of this video so you guys can see how it's starting to pick up in terms of coverage. Be careful. We'll keep an eye out. As always, September the 9th is tomorrow. North Korea will be doing their big military ceremony for their founding day. So we'll see if there's any provocations coming out of North Korea. I'm not sure. Kim Jong-un did just recently send a letter to Donald Trump. We don't know what's in it. And obviously this is going to arrive the day before their kind of military parade. So it could be that a provocation is due tomorrow. We'll see. And then obviously we've got September the 11th. We've got this Tower of Voices memorial for the United 93 flight that crashed in Pennsylvania. It's basically a tower of chimes. And I found that interesting because with the iPad Goat video, the music that they use consists of chimes throughout the whole video. So I don't know if that's really bringing it to the time, but we've got these chimes, and that reminds me of ringing bells, and that kind of symbolizes the start of something or its time. So all of that seems very significant to me, and that will be on September the 11th. And that could just be a marker for, okay, here we go, because September the 12th, Olivia reaches Hawaii. September the 13th, Hurricane Florence reaches the East Coast. The 14th, looks like there may be an EMP or a tsunami. 15th, looks like there may be a nuclear strike. At the same time, on the 15th in the Middle East, looks like Israel strikes Iran, whether in Syria or Iran directly. At the same time, looks like China moves into North Korea towards the DMZ. So yeah, looks like a lot is potentially going to unfold in the next week or so. At the moment, it is the 8th of September 2018 at 5:33 in the morning. 5:33 in the evening over here in the UK. So by next week, exactly the 15th, we will know whether what we've interpreted from this iPad Goat video in association with September the 9th to the 15th has any validity. The problem is, if it does have any validity, then by the 14th or the 15th, there may be a blackout. Now, that's not going to be a worldwide blackout, but it looks like it may be associated with the United States. So there may not be any way of getting any communications across to you guys after that time period. So if that is the case, I would probably suggest I don't know, for your mobile devices, obviously there may not be internet in terms of, you know, that kind of connectivity, but you can still access information that is stored on your device. So you can get like a portable battery or two if you really want to. You can get like the army ones that you can like charge your phone up like 5 times. Flashlights obviously would be a good idea to have in a blackout. If you don't have any of those, probably go and get yourself one, just in case the lights go out during this hurricane. Can't say it's impossible that would happen. It happened to Puerto Rico, has happened before during other hurricanes. So like Hurricane Harvey for Texas, Hurricane Irma for Florida. So they've rehearsed this scenario a lot, and we've seen how epically disastrous the government and FEMA's response was to pretty much all of those things, but particularly to Puerto Rico. With all of that said, we've got a couple of things to watch out for, starting with tomorrow and North Korea on to the 11th with this Tower of Voices. Just in case you don't know what it is, it's basically a tower with chimes, and the chimes represent the 40 people that died, and each of those chimes is supposed to represent the voice of those people that had died on the United 93 flight. And then September the 12th, as I mentioned, Olivia. September the 13th, Florence. September the 14th, possible EMP or tsunami situation, or both. 15th, nuclear, Iran, Israel, most likely Syria, Russia, and China, and North Korea. And then moving on from that, I have interpreted that things on the West Coast may kick off, but considering Olivia is reaching Hawaii around the same time Florence is reaching New York, it may be that it's all just crushed into one timeline and there isn't an extension after the 15th. However, I'll keep it in mind. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.
Tropical storm Florence. This is the latest 5 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. Still a tropical storm. We're noticing, however, it's starting to get a little more organized. This is in line with what we anticipate to take place over the next 24, 48, 72 hours and beyond. Well, look at the cone, and you don't need to be a meteorologist to see what's coming here. We've got all clear indication that this storm will not only strengthen, but it will also continue its west to northwesterly track, and that puts it on a V-line towards the east coast of the United States. It's being steered by a very strong ridge of high pressure just to its north. How strong it becomes, well, that is a deciding factor on whether or not it will curve away from the east coast or it will make a direct landfall. So there's still time that this could miss the U.S., but it unfortunately is appearing that it will not do that, and it will intensify with warm waters there ranging anywhere from the middle to upper 80s, which is just jet fuel for these tropical systems to develop. All of our computer models coming into consensus. You've seen this before. We call it a spaghetti plot. It plots out all the different possibilities from the various computer models that meteorologists look at. It's honing in on the East Coast, specifically the Carolinas. There's Florence. Never mind a 10% development in advance of that. We've got Tropical Depression 9. That's forecast to develop into a tropical storm and then eventually a hurricane impacting the Caribbean and the Lesser Antilles. I mentioned that we are on the climatological peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, but the Pacific is also extremely active just off the coast of Mexico. Norman, you're not a major player any longer. You're moving north of Hawaii, but it's Olivia that's going to cause some concerns for the Hawaiian island chain. And just quickly, I want to talk about what's happening across Guam. This is a territory in the United States where Tropical Storm Mangkhut has its eyes set on this region. It could potentially bring very strong typhoon winds. Beyond that, it will reach Taiwan the second half of next week as a super typhoon. So, wow, lots to talk about, keeping us on our toes. We will follow these storms very closely.